Fear is mounting in Kenya. The country's fragile peace is under threat as the next elections draw closer. In 2007, post-election violence swept across the country. 1,500 people were killed. Over 500,000 more were forced to flee their homes. This is a country living on the edge, with a generation of women and children unable to forget the atrocities they suffered.
If you are living with an amputated hand, or you are living, you were gang raped by your neighbors who you knew, how would you forget that incident?
Nairobi, one of sub-Saharan Africa's most developed cities and the country's political hotbed. Kenya gained independence from Britain in 1963, with Jomo Kenyatta as its first president, followed by Daniel Moi. But in 1992, Kenya held its first multi-party elections, which were marred with violence, and politicians were accused of fanning the flame of ethnic tensions for political gain.
All through since the 1992 elections, since when we started the craving for multi-party democracy, there has always been violence during elections. Castigated, of course, by those people who want to go to parliament and sometimes by the government itself, because they want to remain in power.
It's a divide and rule political system that was introduced to us by the British, and the Kenyan politicians have perfected it.
In 2002, Moi Kibaki was elected president after promising to finish decades of corruption, tribalism and persecution. The same president who was secretly sworn in and forced to deny allegations of fraud in his 2007 electoral victory over Raila Odinga. It was these allegations that sparked ethnic and political clashes.
Nothing could have prepared us for the kind of violence that we saw. It was one of the most highly contested elections in Kenya. We heard of cases where women were being raped while their husbands watched, and then their husbands were being killed after watching their wives being raped.
Tensions reached breaking point when a church in Eldoret, sheltering 200 people, was set alight. Around 40 people were burnt alive. Peace was reached through a power-sharing agreement between Kibaki and Odinga, brokered by Kofi Annan in February 2008. But to find out the real cost of the violence, we're heading to Kibera, southwest of Nairobi. This is one of Africa's largest slums and one of the epicenters in the post-election violence. Mile upon mile of shantytown houses over 1 million people. We meet Asiama Ismail, a rape counsellor.
The moment the presidential results was announced, then that was when hell broke loose. There is a group of women who are actually violated, and they are victims. Some of them have learned to live with it. Some of them are still traumatized. Some of them are undergoing counseling therapies. Others were even just young girls, maybe 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds. Mostly it's the women and the children who are affected because they could not run.
At this school in Kibera, the children tell us they saw houses being burnt and people they knew being slaughtered. For now, they're carrying on with their schoolwork, but the memories of what they witnessed continue to haunt them.
I'm so frightened because the memories for 2007, I still have them. So I'm not sure, but I just think that maybe people might fight again. Some of us will end up losing parents again. People will end up running, leaving their homes, going even wherever they turn to be refugees, where they had their home, their own places for living. So for me, I feel so frightened. Even as for me, if it is just a matter of voting, I couldn't wish them to vote us for now.
It really breaks my heart because, children are always happy. Their eyes tell about the joy and their feelings. But, when they talk about it, you look at them, their eyes are somehow distant. It's like they take themselves back to that situation. They never ever wanted it to happen again. They couldn't sleep at night. They could not eat. They wouldn't even play outside. And I remember at some point, there was a tire burst outside. And then one of the kids just shouted, "Tear gas," because they could remember. They could hear those shots.
The people in Kibera were not the only ones whose lives were changed in the slums. Jackie escaped to the east of the city to protect her children.
Okay. Let's go. Who's coming on my back now? Life is a struggle. Life is a challenge. I have 5 children. I'm a widow, and my children's life is mine, and my life is my children's, and I'm the only father and mother figure in every figure.
Sexual violence is often a weapon used in political unrest. Jackie was raped by a man she knew. 3 months later, Jackie found out she was pregnant.
Good girl. Okay. See you. As I get to my door, I realize that this person has got different intentions. Got very, very wrong intentions. So he beats me about, he slaps me, and then thereafter molests me. And all this time the children are in the bedroom. They're sleeping. The first girl has already been to school, so I've got the other 3 children, the 2 ones in primary school and the baby. And I think to myself, I don't want them to hear this. I don't want them to see me in this position. I wouldn't want them to see me so compromised. And so I bear it. I bear it, of course, with the minimal amount of screams and retaliation. And after a while, of course, I get up, and there's a door in between the sitting room and the bedroom. And so I close the corridor, and I go to the corridor, and I sit there until it's morning.
Jackie fears that it may all happen again.
I have actually heard that in tribal cliques, people are preparing themselves. Whether the government wants to hear it, whether the government won't hear it, but that is the reason on the ground. And as much as they would try to suppress it, it really is happening.
We're heading west to the internally displaced person camps, known here as IDP camps. We've been given access to meet some of the women and children who fled in terror from their homes. So we've reached Nakuru. We've just come off the Nairobi-Nakuru road, and we're heading into the Pipeline displacement camp. We've been told there's 18 displacement camps still spread across Kenya 4 years after the elections. 3,500 people live here. These were supposed to be temporary shelters, but the government's plan of resettling the IDPs hasn't happened. We meet Mary. Her nephew was killed after being shot with an arrow in the Rift Valley. Mary and her children just managed to escape. What's life like living here in an IDP camp?
Tumepitia shida nyingi sana juu hata sasa kama mwenye ajajenga ako na hema tu, hii mvua ikinyesha inakuja inapitia maji chini, na saa zingine mtu hana hata kitanda, watoto wanalalia maji. Hata watu wengi wamefariki sana juu sasa hiyo upepo ilikuwa inawaingia. Saa zingine mtu hana pesa za kwenda hosi.
Tell me, when you go to sleep at night, do you still have dreams about what happened?
Zinanisumbuanga juu hata nikikumbuka hayo maneno usiku, na stukia mimi napiga nduru usiku, watoto wananiita wananiuliza, "Mama, kwa nini unapiga nduru?" Na ni juu ya kufikiria haya maneno ya vita hiyo. Naogopa juu sasa labda tena turushe kura tena tupate mambo kama hayo. Ni lazima tuogope sasa juu hata mimi nasema hata siwezi tupa kura tena. Kuhusu vile zinakuja, kuna wakati mwingine unapima, unaona ni kama kutakuwa kuzuri,
Wakati mwingine unasikia wakiongea vile wanaongea sasa, unasikia ni kama kutakuwa na maneno.
We head to a remote camp in Nakuru. We meet camp director Sospita Omare. He tells us it was months before the people living here received any real help after becoming refugees in their own country.
For 4.5 months, we stayed at the DCE's office without being given even shelter and all even being recognized by the government itself. We didn't have blankets, shelter, food, even water.
The majority of people living here are women and children, and food shortages have continued to be a problem. This family's home was burnt along with everything they owned. The children's father's in hospital, and for their mother Susan, work and money is scarce.
Kwa sasa hii tumemaliza mwezi mbili kama hatujapata chakula. Hata saa hii sina hata ya kitu ya kupika. Ni tu waru hata ni tu na nilienda kibarua ndio nikawekewa debe moja. Mahindi sina hata. Nikiona chakula ni kidogo mimi nawapea. Kama jana si kukula, nikaona makuli. Mimi nikakaa hivi.
For Rachel, there's only one mouth to feed. Her eldest daughter recently died. Rachel believes it was as a result of the traumas they'd suffered.
Huyo mtoto tangu aone alikuwa anapenda masomo sana. Na tena akaona sina nguvu, nimekaa kama nimeshaganyikiwa. Akaona kama atapoteza mama yake. Sasa ugonjwa ulimwanza hapo mpaka wakati huu ameaga. Nilikuwa sina tetemeka, sina nguvu, sina uwezo, hata fahamu iliniondokea. Nilikuwa ninatembea tu nitembee.
Now her baby Lydia is sick. She's lacking the vital nourishment she needs.
Uoni pesa ya kupeleka hospitali, unakaa hivyo na nini. Nangojea Mungu akusaidie.
Are the people living here in this camp fearful of the general election coming round?
From what we saw, what we've been seeing, and the conversations that we were getting from the government leaders, it shows that still there is that hatred. So we are even expecting more worse to happen than what happened last time, because some were innocent by the time it happened, but by now people are prepared, knowing that anything can happen.
Do you feel that the government has failed the people living in this camp?
I can say to some extent yes, because if they could have said that surely they wanted to move these people, it couldn't have taken that is wrong, because there is money. They were given money by other organizations. But now, if you see, there are other things that they do decide once and they do. But taking 5 years to move 600,000 people, and they have not even moved half the people. We've never seen even that MP, Member of Parliament of this area, coming to this camp. But a few months from now, we are expecting him to see him here, saying that he needs our votes.
It's not just the IDPs who feel like they've been failed. 4 men have been charged by the International Criminal Court. 2 of these men are presidential candidates, but others will never face punishment.
I don't think there is any justice, because some of those who are arrested were released in the name that there is no evidence. We all know there is evidence, but then there are some senior people backing them up. There are so many. It's not only there 4, it's not only there 6. Forced election violence was organized by groups of people.
You find that a lot of the victims worry about justice, worry about, so who will ever fight for me? Who will ever find out what happened to me? will I ever be called to any stand to say what happened to me?
Many women worry that no one will fight for them. These women have been campaigning for peace since 2007. Here at this event called Kenya Tuna Awesu, which means Kenyans, we have the capability. These women behind me are singing for change. They're singing for a better future for themselves and their children. And they're singing for what every woman in Kenya has told me they want to see, and that's peace.
We have women whose properties were destroyed, by people they even knew. We have women who were sent away from their jobs just because they came from the communities that these other groups did not believe in. We have women who, who were even raped. We have women whose children were shot. In fact, in our group, we even have a woman who was shot, and she was shot right inside the house. So, we experienced everything, and everyone was affected. Everyone. Because at some point, people will not get food. You will not access food. At some point, even if your neighbor doesn't have, then you're part of that. So somehow everyone was affected. And we had no option but to get together.
The failure of the government to prosecute continues to cast a shadow over the elections and Kenya's democracy. As we reach Kisumu, we see just how severe the suffering's been. In this church, these women gather weekly to support each other and pray for peace. The violence that they experienced was horrific. Half of the women in this room tell us they were raped.
Kanyo ne ntiere jomoko, chuo moko, nochung' kanyo, to kanyo moyude ka mon moko ni repo kanyo. Me mon ariyo, toyudo kosetho life. To dhako achiel nindo kode gi chupa. Bang' second abich, kodimnwa, to ne achiel kuomgi nodhi omaka, mondo koda ma an notwang'a usi auchiel. E seche mano onidhi koda nero, to nondidhi koda gi chwo adek. Bas ka to ne nitie chwo moko mane biro bang'wa mane ringo, kono kaka nitimo koda richo. Ne gitemo chodha, ma gitere osiptal nitie machiegni kanyo. Ma daktari no nandu ma kata law na onge godo. Daktari manogolo kotine ma white chande, to timang'owa omiya, to twang'a. Then nomiya tablet moro nitie kanyo manomiya sechego namuony, mondo kadipo ni nyalo bed gi tuo mar okimi, ok nyal maka, kata kadipo ni ich, to kik amaki.
Sylvia still bears the scars of her ordeal. Her husband was murdered during the violence.
Koro e iye kanyo, asebed gi chandruok kata sechegi aonge ot. Arent masogo, koth goya gi nyithindo, anya gi wuoda manosetimo form 4, manoyudo B+. E ndala ka endi, tich otamre, kaka oyud tich onge. Anyaka gi nyako maduong' manosetimo 8, kaka dhi e secondary onge. An ma kod gerent. E seche manyisi ni, ane chandruok mata matres mwach ni ji ninde, an aninde par. Man jo kanisa ema konya gi lewni, konya gi chiemo. An gi chandruok mang'eny.
Is there anything positive going to happen to prevent the next elections having a violent repercussion? If not, can you imagine that woman have to go through that same experience twice or 3 times?
Ani kadipo ni lwenche madwa biro kendo, to kara kik wago ombulu no bed maonge.
What the women and children here have experienced continues to affect them. Whilst they're able to forgive, they can't ever forget.
Sa unajua hata ukiwasamea unasikia tu uchungu inakukura huku ndani.
Most of the women that I've talked to, they say they're forgiven because it's something that has happened and they've learned to live, to move on. So they're forgiven. Because at times, you even ask them, what if you come face to face with the perpetrator? What would happen? I remember another woman just told me, I always pray that God changes this person so that he never does that again to somebody else.
Ana sewene richone. Ng'ano manotimo na gino na sewene. Makwani Nyasaye bo medwene mang'eny. Koro ebendo yud mana warruok e chunye.
Do you think women have forgotten?
No. It's hard to forget. It's really hard to forget.